Welcome to lesson one. We're going to talk about the overview of project management. So, in this lesson, we'll cover a few things. One, the definition of a project and its management. We'll talk about the key characteristics of a project. We'll give examples of a project. Now, let's jump into it. First of all, let's understand what project is. Here, project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So, project is specific. Project is time bound, and it is an initiative that we undertake with a definite beginning and ending. So, a project is temporary and is an initiative that we undertake to achieve specific result. And our result can either be an output, it could be service provided, or it could be some unique change that we want to make at the end of the project. Now, projects are typically undertaken to achieve specific objectives or goals within a predetermined constraints. These constraints can be time, budget, resources, and scope. So every project operates within a constraint, and it means that there are limited resources to implement a project. So it means we have to tailor the project according to the available resources in terms of time, budget, other resources, and the scope of the project. In this world, the project timeline will depend on the kind of project we are implementing. The project budget will also depend, the resources required will also depend, and the scope of the project will depend. So it means that every project varies per the specific time, the budget, resources, and the scope that we are undertaking. And the objectives and goals of that project is also specific and different from other projects. So let's understand a project in line with the key characteristics so that when you see a project, you'll be able to identify projects looking at these different characteristics. Number one, temporary nature. Projects have a definite start and end date. So projects are temporary. It is not everlasting process. That's why we say it is a temporary endeavor that we undertake to achieve specific result. So projects are temporary in nature. Now, projects are implemented to achieve unique deliverable. Every project is different and distinct and unique, and every project we implement seeks to achieve specific output, which are the results that we achieve at the end of the project. These outputs can either be product, it could be service, or some changes that we want to see in the environment, within organizations, or so on. Now, projects are different from operations. Operations are continuous or routine, while projects are specific within a time frame and to achieve specific results. Now, projects are implemented to achieve specific objectives. Objectives are the changes or the results or what we intend to achieve at the end of the project. Objectives can be specific goals. It could be to solve a particular problem that we have identified. It could be meeting a need, all right, or it could be capitalizing on an opportunity. Maybe you have identified an opportunity that you want to capitalize on, and you need to implement a specific project to achieve that. So project must have a clear objective that we want to achieve at the end, and the objective of the project will determine the kind of activities that we need to carry on in order to achieve the project objective. Earlier on, as I said, projects are implemented within constraints because there are limited resources. No organization has all the resources to achieve all the different projects they want to achieve. That is why when you want to implement a project, you need to be able to sit and do feasibility study to understand the constraints so that you will be able to limit the project to what is available. The resources that you have available to implement the project, you'll be able to limit the project within that resources. Now, when we talk about some of the constraints that project can face with, it has to do with the limitations. It has to do with some of the things that you need to consider. One can be the time. So project can face the issue of time. There might not be enough time or the available time to complete a particular project. You may have a constraint of budget. This is cost constraint. That is the available amount that you have to implement the project, because the project will require some funding that you will have to use to carry on the project activities. Project require other form of resources. These resources could be human resources. You need manpower, you need skills, you need expertise and other resources that will help you carry on the project. Then the project must have to consider the scope in terms of the constraint. The scope. Scope looks at the different things that the project will cover and everything that the project will deliver on. It could be the community, it could be the target group, it could be the specific results, it could be the specific activities, and it could be what exactly the project is going to focus on. Because the project cannot solve all the problems. Take, for instance, you want to solve the problem of unemployment, youth unemployment. It's not possible that you're going to address all the issues surrounding youth unemployment. You might just say we are going to implement a project specifically targeting skill development because it could be one of the things that will help improve the employment rate for youth. So you could be providing skill training, providing knowledge and skills for young people, while others will be doing other things to achieve that. So that is the scope of the project. Your own project will focus on equipping young people, providing them the skills that they need for employment opportunity. So every project must focus on balancing these different constraints. How do you make sure there's time, budget, resources, and scope for the project to be successfully implemented? And that's where the project manager must be able to work hard to ensure that these different constraints are in balance. Now, let's talk about cross-functional. A project is implemented within an organized environment. This could be an organization, but it has to be in an organized environment. It means that it must involve some set of stakeholders. Stakeholders are donors, stakeholders are vendors, other people who will be working along with the project, even the team members that will be helping you to implement the project. So they can even be beneficiaries, the community, other leaders that will be important in the project implementation. So you need to consider the different stakeholders that you need to engage at different levels of the project. So you have the departments. So the project may work with different departments within the organization, or you may need to work with different disciplines, different skill set and expertise that will have to come on the board. So projects will require some form of collaboration and coordination among different team members with different skills that they bring on the table. And the purpose of this is to ensure that we meet the demand or the resource requirement for the project. Because the project requires certain skills, it requires certain expertise, and certain people must come on board to ensure that we achieve it. That's where we need to look at it from that angle. Also, we look at projects from the form of risks and uncertainty. Every project is implemented considering uncertainty and some kind of risk because everything we plan on the book will not be exactly as it will be when we are implementing the project. There might be changes, there might be circumstances and other challenges we encounter through the implementation process. Our work here is to ensure that we identify and manage all potential risks that will affect the project so that it can have a kind of negative impact on the project. We need to manage them. But we need to firstly identify them at the beginning of the project. And during the implementation, we are to monitor to see if there are any potential risks that we need to manage so that it doesn't affect the project at all. Then we have organizational impact. Here we look at the project from the lens of how does this project impact the organization. So if you are carrying on the organizational project, you need to look at the impact that project has on the organization. Take, for instance, you have a company that implementing your project, maybe developing a new software application to ease customer constraint. So you see that the company is creating impact for itself by making sure that they introduce a new technology to promote customer service and also enhance the efficiency and effectiveness and all that. So you need to look at the impact that the project is going to make on the organization that's implementing. Does the project align with your strategic goals? How does it improve your organizational performance? How does it contribute to achieving your organizational objectives? So you need to think about it from that lens and not just from what is going to do ASA, but you want to look at the impact of that project on the organization. How does the software or the application impact the organization? How does it improve the organizational performance? How does it improve staff performance? How does it improve customer service? And other lines that you need to look at within your strategic plan. Then we kind of explore some examples of a project. So when we talk about project, what do we mean? We've already defined project as a temporary endeavor that we undertake to achieve specific results. They could be service or product. So let's give some example of what project basically is. It can vary, of course, but when we talk about project, one example could be a new software application. Developing a new software application is a project because it's going to be starting at a certain time and ending at a certain time. But remember, the software that will be developed from the project will be used throughout. So the development of that software is the project component. That aspect is temporary. Also, you could look at constructing a building. If you are constructing a building, whether it's a personal building or a school building or whatever building you're constructing, is also temporary because it has a start and end date, and that building will be constructed. Note, the output will be the building that will be constructed at the end of the project, which will stay for longer and longer period of time. But the project of that construction will end. Now, organizing an event, it could be a wedding, it could be a birthday party, it could be any kind of event that you're organizing. Of course, that event is temporary in nature, which means that it has a start and end date, so it is a project. Implementing a marketing campaign is also a project where you want to increase customers and all that. So you are carrying on a specific campaign. Maybe you're doing some visitation to different areas and you are trying to come in with new marketing information and all that. That will be in the public for a certain period of time. That is also a project. Conducting research studies also a project because it has a start and end date. If you are carrying on market research or you're trying to conduct research, maybe you are doing your thesis, whatever form of research you're doing, it is temporary in nature. Then you have launching a new product. Maybe you've developed a new product that you want to launch in the public. That is also a project because it is temporary in nature. That event that you'll be organized or bringing up or launching that product to the public is also a project. Take, for instance, constructing a hand pump as well. Maybe you've identified that this community lacks safe drinking water. They don't have access to safe drinking water. Maybe they're still using the creek and all that. So you want to improve their health condition by creating access to safe drinking water. So you realize from your study that they don't have a hand pump in the community. So what did you do? You constructed a hand pump. That construction of the hand pump is the project because it's temporary. We're going to end it and the project will end and we'll see the hand pump being constructed. That hand pump is the output, which is the result of the construction of the hand pump that we did. And the impact of that project will be long lasting because the community will be able to access safe drinking water through that hand pump project that you implemented. Now, projects are implemented in various industries. Some of the industries projects are implemented, it could be construction industry, like road construction, buildings, different form of infrastructure. So you see in the construction industry, there are a lot of projects going on, government carrying on the projects, different companies and organizations. You have technology. In the technology sector, like building software, building technological solutions for society is also an environment where project takes place. Healthcare is also another area where a lot of projects are happening. Then you have education. There are a lot of educational projects that are undertaken to improve teacher performance, to improve, provide school support, all that of different form of projects in the education sector. Then you have the non-profit organizations. Within the non-profit organization, like development organizations, CSOs, there are a lot of projects being implemented, or community-based organizations, youth-led organizations, women-led organizations. These are organizations that focus on humanitarian and development work. They could be charity-based or whatever they are. Now, to effectively manage projects, you need to make sure you plan. So effective project management has to do with planning, it has to do with organizing, and it has to do with controlling the project to ensure that you achieve the project result and stakeholders are satisfied at the end of the project. Now let's explore on what project management is. Now we've understood what projects basically is. We've given an example of what project is. We also talked about the key characteristics of a project. What does it mean to manage a project? To manage a project means that you have to practice planning. Planning is one key component of managing a project. We must have a blueprint about what we want to do. We must have a clear goal, objectives, and all the underlying activities that we want to implement, and then a clear plan that will take us to the implementation phase. And we also need to organize the project in that we need to assign tasks, we need to arrange the different tasks in order of importance, and also be able to communicate that to stakeholders and assign team members to the different tasks so that they will be able to carry on the work. That is organizing, putting together all the necessary resources to carry on the project. We need to control, because when we're implementing the project, we have to manage situations like changes to the project, resources that will be allocated to the project. We have to control other issues surrounding the project. All this we do is to achieve the project objectives within the time frame, and also looking at other constraints. Other constraint includes cost, it includes risks, and there are other things like scope, quality, and all that we need to manage for us to achieve the project results. Managing project means that we are coordinating and leading a team to accomplish all we need to do and manage every aspect of the project. Now, we can talk about project management without mentioning the project manager, because the project manager is responsible for managing the project. So when you say project management, we are actually talking about the one who manages the project from start to finish. What is your role then? The project manager role is to make sure that the project is well planned, well coordinated, and overseen so that the project will be successfully executed from start to finish. The project managers are also responsible for achieving project objectives within the constraints like time, cost, quality, scope, and rates. As a project manager, you need to also look at how to manage resources, human, materials, equipment, and all forms of resources that will be allocated to the project. You need to also facilitate communication with stakeholders, with your team members regularly to ensure that everything is going on par. We also need to ensure that project stakeholders are satisfied with the project results. Stakeholders could be donors, the beneficiaries, and all that. We need to make sure that they are satisfied with the end result of the project. Now, to be an effective project manager, you need to have some essential skills that will help you throughout this journey. This journey requires knowledge and then skills. You can also use other things like tools that will make you very effective as a project manager. What are some of the skill sets you need to develop as a project manager? One is strong leadership, because the project manager is the one leading the team to achieve the project results, to execute the project. So you need to have strong leadership skills. You need to have strong communication skills as well, being able to communicate with team members, giving information, and working with them hand in hand to ensure that everything is going on path. You need to also have problem solving skills. Here, you know that as you are implementing project, there are a lot of things that will come. Problems will arise within team members, problems will come from external parties. You need to make sure that you have that skill to negotiate and solve problems among stakeholders. Here, you also need to adapt what we call to changing circumstances. It means that the project manager should be able to adapt to the challenges around them and to execute the project, coming to manage the risks and making informed decisions. Decision making is another skill that you need to learn as a project manager. Project managers must have a good understanding of project methodologies. What mentor are you going to use? There are a lot of mentors that you need to use as a project manager. You can also use modern technology like tools, project management tools, to manage project. This includes managing project time, managing the cost, managing quality, scope, and other activities with the project. You can also use best practices. What are some of the best practices in managing project? What do you need to put in place so that the project will be well implemented? Now, in conclusion, throughout the project management process, effective leadership is critical. Communication is important. Stakeholder management, they are all important. So project managers should also foster what we call collaborative and positive team environment, because you are leading the team and working with them. You need to adapt to changes in the project environment. You need to also ensure that the project aligns with organizational goals and objectives. By doing all this, you are going to implement the project and achieve desirable outcomes for your stakeholders. That will make them trust you the more and give you even bigger responsibilities to carry on. Thank you very much for completing this lesson.